Good afternoon, and welcome to the UIS Alumnus Keynote Speaker Session. This session kicks off the virtual series for the 5th Annual Career Bytes Conference and National Career Development Month throughout November. Funding has been kindly appropriated through the Student Government Association. The theme of this series is Prepare, Connect, Succeed. The session will begin with our keynote and then open up for a Q&A portion. I will be your moderator, Angela Evans. For the Q&A portion, please type your questions into the chat box and we will get to as many as possible. Now I'd like to introduce our keynote speaker, Nabih Elhajj. Nabih is a 2012 UIS grad. He currently serves as the Executive Director of iVenture Ed, Inc., and is also an adjunct instructor of entrepreneurship at UIS. Welcome, Nabih, and thank you so much for agreeing to be our keynote. I'm going to go ahead and turn it over to you.
Angie, thank you for having me. Thank you for inviting me. And thank you everyone for being here today. Thanks for your time and for your engagement. So I am going to share a PowerPoint and then we'll go through it. It's only a few slides and it'll be better if it's a dialogue. So I'll go through the slides. You can interrupt me, stop me at any time. If you have any questions, feel free to ask them at any point. And I might ask you a few questions as we go through. I hope that's fair. Can I share my screen, Angie?
Yes.
Perfect. Okay. So my journey, I think that's why you invited me here. You want me to talk about all the things that I have done, hopefully all the good things that I've done since I've been to UIS, maybe before UIS, during UIS, and after UIS, to share that journey with you in hopes that it helps you find maybe ideas, maybe inspiration, maybe thoughts, whatever it may be, that it would improve anything that you're trying to do. And I say so far because it's really important to remember that it's not a sprint, it's a long marathon, and things change and things go up and things go down, and just to be gracious as you go through the motions, and allow yourself to be okay with the ups as well. Celebrate the ups, but I'll be okay with the downs. And I put as my subtitle is the college and beyond, and so I'll talk to you a little bit about all the things I've done in college, how that inspired me, and then what happened after I left college. And I say it's not over yet because, I'm still young, so I hope to do a lot more than what I've done so far. College and career. So I started. I started as an international student. I came to the U.S. right after high school. And I went to a community college up in Peoria, which is about an hour and a half from here, from Springfield, up north. And I went to Illinois Central College, a small community college, East Peoria. And at the time, I really did not know what I wanted to major in. I had interest. I was interested in political science. I was interested in journalism. I was interested in business. I loved philosophy. But I had no idea really what kind of major I wanted to pursue. So I took my gen eds at the community college. I graduated with an associate in journalism. And from there, I transferred to Eureka College. And that's a town also north of here, about an hour from here. And I like to say there are two famous people who graduated from Eureka College. One is Ronald Reagan, and the other one I like to say it's me. I'm kidding, of course, but this would be so much more fun if I could see you in person. Now it seems like I'm just joking to myself. But I went to Eureka College, and I graduated. Again, I transferred there. I did not know exactly what I wanted to study, but I still had those interests in mind. And I met my advisor, and then became my teacher for many courses, and then became my life mentor until he passed away a few years ago. But he was a retired Illinois Supreme Court justice, and he encouraged me to give it a shot, look into criminal justice and look into sociology. If I have interest in political science and all these things, maybe a combination of those things might work out to my advantage. So I did. I took a couple classes with him, and I loved them. So then I finished my 4-year degree, and studied sociology and criminal justice. I throughout the time, and I will connect as you can see, law enforcement, Congress, and so on. I interned. I interned a lot. After I transferred to college from my junior year through my senior year until I graduate senior year, I had an internship every semester. And I started with law enforcement. I interned as a probation officer at the Woodford County, also north of here. And then I interned with the state police with the counterintelligence unit down here in Springfield. I would commute. And then I interned with the Illinois Congressional District, Illinois 18th, as a congressional liaison, as an intern. And by the time I was time for me to graduate, I was kind of tired. All the internships that I did were very beneficial. I learned a lot, but they weren't fun. To me, I mean, think of it. I was, the first one. I would sit in the courthouse all day, and I would prepare pre-sentencing documents for a judge, and then I would sit through the trials and the sentencing and all these things. And so it was exhausting to me at the end of it. So I decided to do something different. Initially I thought I would graduate and I would go to law school. And by the time I was done with my internships, I decided that that might not be the route I want to go. And that's a caveat here. I think internships are important in that sense too, that it's a tool of exploration, that you have ideas that you want to be in a certain industry, or that you want to work in a certain company, and then you go intern there and you explore, what is it going to look like when I do this on a day-to-day basis? I have these ideas, but what is it really going to look like? So after I did that, I realized that that is not the life that I want to have. So I moved to Florida. I moved to Orlando, and I took a year-long internship at Disney World in Orlando. Huge, huge difference. I was, sitting in a courtroom, and now I play with Mickey. But I loved it. I loved it a lot. It was so much fun. If any of you have been the Disney World down in Orlando, I worked at the Boardwalk Resort. I worked as a bell captain. And then I also worked at the Magic Kingdom and crowd control. I did some work in the Animal Kingdom. I did some work across some of the other resorts. So if you have any Disney question, I'd be happy to answer those too. So I did that internship, and that opened my mind to the possibilities that is beyond just law. And I started considering business as an alternative. I wasn't all there yet, but I did enjoy the management piece of everything that I did. So when I interned at the Boardwalk at Disney, we had a problem. I was the bell captain. If in hotels you have bell services. They bring you your luggage when you show up. You check in. You can store your luggage at Disney because your room might not be ready, and then you can go and play at the parks, and then you come back at night, and the bell services can either give you your luggage or they can deliver it to your room once your room is ready. So it was a team of about 50 people that would run this operation. As a bell captain, you're the supervisor. You organize all these movements. You receive the orders, you dispatch the orders. You receive the orders, you dispatch the orders. And at the time I came to that role, it was clear that it was very dysfunctional. And Disney has an internal ranking systems where they look at all the comparable services and see how each place is performing. And the Boardwalk, compared to the 14 other resorts, was at the bottom when it came to bell services. We had the most complaints. Customers were dissatisfied. We were losing luggage. It would take us forever to deliver luggage, and there were a lot of infighting within the bell service workers. Bell service lives a lot on tips. That's how they make money, most of it. So, anyways, you're not here to learn about bell services. The idea was that I found this problem and I thought it was interesting. So I went to management and I had asked them if they would be okay if I try to tackle it, to see what's the root cause of all of this. And I used some of my sociology knowledge in being creepy. And what I mean by that is sociology is a discipline of observing people and human behavior within a society, within a group. And so I would stalk my bell services. I would follow them. I would time them. I would see where they're going. I would see how long it takes them. I would see, when customers come to us, how long it gets to. And I was with a pen and a paper. I was recording all this information. Eventually I had a solution. I went to management with it and we implemented it. And by the time I was done with my internship at the Boardwalk, we had gone from being at the bottom to being at the top. We benchmarked. And so by the time I finished the internship, I got an award as best employee of the month at the time, because it was at the end of it. Because of that, I got rewarded for these efforts. And they gave me Disney dollars, so I got to take them to the park and spend them. And a big Mickey poster, which is great.
Hey, Nabih, there is one
Yeah,
question. How
sure.
did you have time for all of these internships?
It was when you have an internship, you can work out your schedule with the place that you're interning. So at the time, the courthouse was close to Eureka. I could walk from the college to the courthouse. And so I had worked a schedule with them that was around my class schedule. And so I didn't go to the internship every day, but I also didn't have classes every day. So I was able to get my classes on certain days and have days where I did not have classes, and I was able to go to my internship. As far as the one in Springfield, I had to commute about an hour every time I came down to my internship. And so for this one, I only spent about 12 hours a week doing the internship. And so I would commute twice a week, one full shift and one half a shift. So I was able to negotiate these things with my internships, and that allowed me to do that kind of work. And then some of the internships, like the congressional internship, I started towards the end of my semester, my spring semester, and then went through it in my fall semester. And did it through the summer. So I did not have classes. And then as far as Disney, I applied for it in my senior year. I got accepted as I graduated my senior year. So then I did not have to take classes anymore, because I had graduated from all the classes. I only needed this internship. That was the only thing left for me, because we got credits for them. That was the only thing left for me to graduate from school. So then I was able to move down to Florida and live there. Does that answer it?
Yes, thank you.
Is there another question in there?
Were they all paid internships, and how did they contribute to where you are today, like skills or experiences?
Yeah, only Disney was paid. Disney gave me an apartment, and then they paid me, and then they let me go play for free. And so that was the only one that came with perks. The other ones came with cool perks, like when I worked for the state police, I had a badge. It let me in buildings where civilians couldn't get in, and that was pretty cool. I remember working in the intelligence unit here in Springfield. It's underground, and you sit and you're surrounded by all these intelligence officers from different parts of the intelligence community. So you could be sitting with military intelligence. You'd have Navy, Air Force, Marine people. And I thought those were cool, because I got to build a network in that environment that otherwise I wouldn't have had access to. So paid, Disney, the others had some perks. Of course, with the probation, I had access to the courthouse. I would go in before the judge gets there, so I can prep I could prep the docket before the other things start to happen during the day. So those are kind of what my internships look like. And then what was the second part? How did that influence me, I think?
How did they contribute to where you are today, related to skills, experiences?
Yeah, quite a bit. And I'll explain that as I go through my PowerPoint. But since you asked, it's in the moment, we're not so sure what we're learning. And sometimes we look for things that are extremely tangible. And if we don't see those things, then we dismiss the activity that we're doing. And for me, I did not start connecting the dots of the things that I learned until later in life. So for instance, when I did work with the intelligence community, I learned a lot of data skills that did not come back to me until I got into business. and that ability to research and use data in a different way, in a meaningful way, that was very helpful. That came from my experience working in intelligence and law enforcement. The skills I learned and how to deal with adversity. When I worked at Disney, that team was mainly dysfunctional because there was lack of leadership, there was mistrust among all the other workers, and it was an uphill battle. How do you get 50 employees to be on the same page when there's so many fractions and so many clicks? So that taught me, quite a bit of patience, and the ability to manage up and down. You're trying to manage your managers and you're trying to manage the employees below you, because as a supervisor, you're kind of stuck in the middle. And so then those skills came in handy, and down the road as I started learning these things. Are there any other questions, Angie?
No, not as right now.
Okay, so Eureka College did that, and then I went to Florida. I worked there for about a year, and then I decided that it was great and everything, but I just could not see a path forward. If you have worked in Disney, or you plan on working at Disney or interning at Disney, you'll notice that there is it takes a while before you start moving up the ranks at the company. It's a massive, massive company. So there's tons of competition, and you have to work your way up. Almost, at least at the time, it was unheard of that someone from the outside gets hired into management positions. You all start as cast members, and then everyone just works their way up. And so I thought I really did not want to do that. I felt like a number, and then I felt it was going to take me forever to move up the ladder. So then I decided to come back to Illinois, and at the time, the economy still was not doing well. I graduated my undergrad. It was 08, 09. We had major recession. No one was hiring. People were being laid off. Unemployment skyrocketing. And I came back, and I felt like I was stuck in a place where I have knowledge, but I did not have much skills. I have some interest in business on the management side, but not so much that I wanted to leave the environment that I was in, the sociology, the criminal justice, that kind of environment. And so then I started looking at programs, like what would it be that could excite me out there? And then I came across the public administration program at UIS. So I applied. Well, I visited the college first, and then I applied. So I came down to college because I was living in Peoria at the time. And I came down to the college, and I looked at the campus, and I liked it. It looked so peaceful to me. It looked beautiful. And I thought, okay, I can see myself going here. So then I applied, and I got accepted. And I got my MPA, Master's in Public Administration. And that was interesting because in that program, I got to, take some political science classes. I got to take some management classes, some organization classes. So it kind of combined all the passions I had. And I truly enjoyed it. But at the same time I was getting my master's, I had just gotten a job with Northwestern Mutual, also up in Peoria. So then I couldn't move down to Springfield. So I started commuting from Peoria to Springfield. At Northwestern Mutual, I started learning, I got into finance. So we started doing investments, I started doing portfolio management, I started learning about insurance. And I did that throughout my entire graduate degree, so for 2 years. And at the end of it, I decided that, I didn't really like it. I loved the knowledge. There was something missing, that also this was not it. And so I left my job at Northwestern Mutual. I had just graduated UIS, and I thought, I like Springfield. I had met friends. I had started building a network here. So then I decided to move down to Springfield. And that was about 9 years ago, I think. It'll be 9 years ago in a couple months. And so I moved down to Springfield, and I had connected with a group of people, and then we started working on startups. At the time, I was training with a friend who was an Ironman. He would do Ironman stuff, and I would train with him on triathlons. I never competed, but I would do all the training with him. I'd get up at 4 a.m. We'd meet up. We'd go bike. We'd swim. We'd run. And I had this idea that I really hated getting on a treadmill, especially when you had to do long runs. 10, 15 miles on treadmills, terrible. I don't look like I ran that much now, but at the time I did. I was much thinner. and then I had this idea, like, well, why couldn't it be different? Who decided that this is the standard of a treadmill? And then from there, you know, that's what attracted me to the startup world, and that's what I started working on, new startups. And that idea, you know, I spent about 16 months on it. We built schematics, we went through pitching rounds, we raised some money, but we couldn't get it off the ground. We were trying to build kits, like robotic kits, that changes the way treadmills function. But as I was pitching, I had connected with a local company that works on electric motors, and they had just built a prototype for trek bikes, for an electric bicycle, but then they lost the bid to another company. And so then they were stuck with this prototype. They had spent money on it, didn't know what to do with it. So then we thought we could create we could create a wheelchair that is motor powered, but not 100%, because if you're someone in a wheelchair, if you're 100% dependent on the electric chair, then your quality of life diminishes faster. If you have the ability to propel yourself, then you can still get a bit of exercise. But then if it's completely manual, then you can't go far. It was more difficult. You had to exercise a lot of energy to get through places. So we thought, what if there's an in between, whereas there's one that just measures my need. So if I need to go long places, it kicks in just enough to get me to these places where I still have to exercise, you know, my push to get these things. And it was called a push rim concept. So we did that. We ran into a lot of red tapes, you know, with the medical field is highly regulated, so we couldn't get it off the ground. And then, you know, from that, I went on to, you know, 7 other startups that I engaged in with different groups in the community. And that opened doors for me, because as I was engaging with these people, there was a group of investors in Springfield that were thinking, we don't have enough entrepreneurs in this community, and we want to do something about it. And so they came to me and they said, you know, we have high schools here on board. What would it take for us to teach high school seniors how to become entrepreneurs? And so then we got together, and then we launched this program called the Sangamon CO program. And it's a year-long study of entrepreneurship for high school seniors from all over Sangamon County. All the high schools in Sangamon County, the students apply, they get accepted, and they go through this year-long program. And that was our drive to increase not just entrepreneurs, but also intrapreneurs. Because also, as I was connecting with these investors, a frequent comment I would get from businesses is their inability to recruit talent, or their inability to recruit intrapreneurs, people who have high critical thinking abilities and are able to push through change in their organizations. And so we thought, what if we start with this group of students, and then, you know, as we qualify these students, connect them with the businesses, with the hopes that by the time they're done with college, they come back to those businesses. And now I do the same thing at UIS. So that also opened doors for me to teach at UIS as an adjunct of entrepreneurship. So as I was going through this journey, I realized that because I did so many startups, and I had started traveling to all these different incubators, I had started branching out to with all these different entrepreneurs and attending workshops, and I had all this knowledge, but that I didn't have the degree for it. And you know, it's not the most important thing that you have a degree, but for me, I was also trying to build this program where it became difficult for me to get credit for my students because I did not have an MBA. So then I, excuse me, applied to Purdue, got in, I got my MBA. And then that allowed me to get dual credit certification for the program. So now our students, as they go through the program, it's a college course. And so by the time they graduate, they get 6 credit hours towards their college career. And so I'm still doing that. iVentured is the umbrella organization that runs Sangamon CO, because from that Sangamon CO program, we also launched a junior program that teaches leadership and exposes juniors in high school to innovation. We've also launched a train the trainer kind of a program over the summer. High school teachers come over to the UIS campus, and I run a 1-week session with them. We teach them how to deliver entrepreneurship content in their classroom, because that also makes our life easier in college when students come to college prepared for these things. So that was that. And currently, as of August, I started my PhD at ISU, Illinois State, in higher education. So as I think of, I'm more involved in education at this point, but then as I think of my entrepreneurial journey, plus all the things I learned in the workforce, because I also worked at Horseman, it's a publicly traded, that's a $10 billion publicly traded insurance and finance company. I worked there as an analyst for a couple of years. And so a combination of this knowledge, I thought that I can identify things that we can improve in higher education. And I needed the knowledge and I needed the credentials to pursue these things. So I connected with a friend out at ISU, who's faculty at ISU. We started talking about it. And then I thought, okay, I'll give it a shot. So I applied for the PhD program and I got accepted, and I started in August, which I have finals in the paper next month. So that's my college and career journey. Are there any questions before I move on to my next slide? I know I threw a lot out there.
I think there is one question that might fit in well with this. As a first-generation American, did you feel like there was more pressure on you than your classmates to excel academically?
Yeah, I mean, the pressure isn't always external. There's a pressure that's internal. If you think of first generation Americans, we've left home. We've left home. We've left our environment. We've left our towns, our cities, our parents, and so on. And then we've moved to this strange place. If we've done all these sacrifices and we've moved here, then it would be a loss if we just performed average, right? And so then you start putting these internal pressures on yourself, thinking, well, it has to be more than average. It kind of has to be exceptional because I sacrifice all these things. The reward has to be so much bigger. And so then you start putting these pressures on yourself. And I do remember going through those motions where, if I didn't always get an A, it was an upsetting thing for me that I needed to, I should have. But I slowly started changing that mindset when I went to Eureka. Judge Greenberg, I mentioned that he became my mentor. He really helped me see life in a different light and kind of approach it in a different way, where college and career stopped being just the main center of my life. That there were other things that, yes, those are important, but there were so many other things that, combined determine what life is. There's a social life, there's a network, there are friends, there's experiences, traveling, sightseeing, different things that create what we call life. And so that alleviates some of the pressure on me. I did not feel that pressure from faculty or other students. Sometimes there are stereotypes with other students that, because we come from far away, then therefore we must be exceptional, and we're going to do all these magic tricks, and we're going to blow everyone's minds. There were some of those, but not a whole lot.
With all of your experiences, do you think it's best to wait to pursue an advanced degree until one sees a need to advance their goals? What's your take on that?
I do think that I learned more from my MBA than my MPA. And I say that simply because coming into my MBA, I had experienced a lot of the theories that they teach in the MBA school. They would say, don't do this because something might happen. Like if you're learning marketing. And there were things that I had experienced in the workforce. And so it made quicker sense to me than if I had not experienced it. There are two ways to look at it as far as if you're considering a graduate degree. I'm a proponent of school, but with purpose. What are you going to use that graduate degree for? If it's going to help you improve in your work, in your field, then it's great. If you need it to enter your field, then by all means. If you're doing it for personal reasons, growth, just education, knowledge, skills, sure, by all means. When I don't encourage graduate degrees is if you feel that you are going to dig up a major financial hole for yourself. I think that's a bad thing that could happen. In business, you're always looking at what is the return on my investment. So if I do invest in this degree, what's the return? There's always, of course, the knowledge and the skill, and those are extremely valuable returns. But then there's also the compared to the finances, am I going to make, is my salary going to increase enough to offset that? And there's another reason that a lot of times working at companies, they will have programs to encourage you to go back and get graduate degrees. When I got my MBA, I was still working at Horace Mann, and they paid a portion of that tuition, and so that kind of helped too. So things to consider: will your work pay for it or not? And then how bad do you want it? And then what is it for?
We have another question. What would be the best time to start doing internships, and what should a student know and do by then?
The most businesses that I work with and I have knowledge of encourage students to apply towards either the end of their sophomore year, beginning junior year, or beginning junior year. I think junior year is the best way to start doing internships, because there's two things. The businesses are hiring you to do an internship when you're a junior. They're vetting you. They're trying to see, do you have the skills and you have what we need here in this company? And if we need, if that's what you have, then we'll re-offer you that internship maybe in the future. I'll give you examples. A few companies here in Springfield, if you're going to be a CPA, if you're going into auditing, if you're going into accounting, we have Sikich and we have KEB, and those are two companies here in Springfield. They won't give you an internship unless you're in your second semester in your sophomore year, in your junior year, because the way they look at it, they are going to pay you. You are going to work with real clients. If you have the skills and talents that they need, they will offer you that internship again. Hopefully you accept it. And by the time you're done with your senior year, they are going to hire you. That's their pipeline to hiring. There's two things with internships. The one is you're going there to learn some things, but you're also trying to explore, do I want to be in this industry? And if I want to be in this industry, is this the company that I want to work for? Doing an internship tells you a lot about the company, about the people in that company, and about the industry that you are going to be engaged in. And then you can make a decision. Do I like it or do I not? And that gives you an opportunity to make some changes. So my recommendation is start junior year.
All right. I think that's all we have for now.
All right. So I put the title here as intuition, and that's really what my experience has showed me is those are kind of the skills that everyone, every business, every manager, I think every teacher also hope to have in their students and their employees and their interns and so on. And what I mean by that, so those skills are what we focus on in entrepreneurship. Questioning is one of them. As an entrepreneur, you have to be able to look at the world around you and ask questions. Why are things the way they are? Why aren't they in any different way? And what if they were something else? And this is not good advice only for entrepreneurship. It's also good advice for anything you're doing in life. In my class, I host a lot of speakers. Those are CEOs and entrepreneurs and business owners and community leaders. And we had the governor a few times, this governor, the previous governor. So we bring a lot of people into the classroom. And I always tell the students, use your own filters and be able to question the things that you hear. And you think it's simple, you think it's easy, but that's really a very important skill. And you have to practice it. You have to practice that ability to be able to ask these questions. Why not, what if? The other thing is observing. And I put here that you should be actively engaged with your environment. And what I mean by that is if there's a problem around us, a person might look at that problem and say, heck, when is someone going to fix this? But if you're an entrepreneur and you're observing things around you, and if you see a problem, you'll say something like, how can I fix this, right? And it takes that observation skill to be able to translate the things that you're seeing into active thoughts that you can take action on. And again, those are things that you have to exercise and you have to build. And those things increase your critical thinking, which is what every business is looking for. Because when you're hired in a business, you're hired because there are problems that need you to solve them. And that's why you're being hired. And when you solve these problems, you deliver value. And your managers aren't always going to have answers. Most of the time, they don't have answers for those problems, and that's why they want you to look into those things. So having that ability to question and to have and to observe is a huge thing. The other thing is to experiment. We put limits on ourselves because we're always worried that if we do something, we might fail, and that limits our ability to either go far or do things that might be extremely fulfilling for us or exciting. I think that you shouldn't be afraid to fail. It should be okay. I mean, don't do fatal mistakes, but it should be okay because we're all going to fail, and the point is not whether you fail or not. It's what do you learn from it? How do you come back from it? What lessons do you have? All my startups have either had a very modest exit or folded, and I had spent months and sometimes years working on these things, but everything have taught me something from those failures. From those failures, I met new people. From those failures, I sharpened a lot of my skills. From those failures, I was able to build a curriculum to tell people don't do these things, and so that opened different doors for me. And so experiment, and not just in a professional setting, careers and jobs, but also life. There's so much out there. Just enjoy it, experiment it. I know, we can't go places now with the pandemic, but there are things that could add value to our life, and we should engage in it. And then the other bullet point I had: research, prototype, build things. We had a speaker from Silicon Valley. We brought him to the classroom, and one of the students had asked a question and said, when you look at a resume, what do you look for the most if you're trying to hire people for your startup? And his piece of advice was, if I'm looking to hire someone, of course, I kind of look at the degree, but then, I'm most interested to see what else did you do? What research did you complete? What prototype did you build? What did you do in your basement? What did you build in your garage? What else that's so unique and so exciting that I want to have a conversation with you? What else did you do? What else did you do? And that's the point of experimenting, that be bold to experiment things, to research, to build things, to do something that's unique and exciting. And the last point I have here is to network. That's the most important thing that you are going to face. If you don't know people, it will be harder to open doors. You just have to talk to people. And I'm not saying that to say, oh, you need to know people to get a job, but you think of it yourself. If you get a warm reference from someone, hey, this person is so great, and I know you have this opportunity, give them a shot. You're not going to hire them because of that reference, but you're going to notice them because of that reference. And those are the differences. So meet people, go to conferences, go to social events, join clubs, professional organizations, go to the gym, talk to people, be sociable, and build your network. Remember who these people are, connect with them, and build your network. That's the most important thing that I think you can do to improve your chances in a career and to do the things that you want to do. And I see there's a couple questions.
Yes. The first one is, when you're working or interning for others, how can you be comfortable, or how can one be comfortable sharing that they may have failed when they might get fired or released from the internship?
You're expected to make mistakes in the internship. I don't think anyone that I've talked to who's a CEO or business owner thinks that interns will never fail. And when I say fail, is that you're going to make mistakes. You're in a good company when your managers can facilitate those experiences for you, where they can slowly walk you back from those mistakes and improve them. You know that you're in a bad company if a manager leaves you to fall flat on your face, and that's a company that you do not want to work there. So again, when you go and do an internship, it's your opportunity to explore the industry and the company. Do I want to work with these people every single day? Does that answer it?
Yes. And then the next one, I'm not sure what part this is referencing. It says, what company did the CEO work for?
The Same as CEO program it's a nonprofit, and we teach students how to start businesses, and we actually give them seed money in their second semester to go ahead and launch companies. Is that what this question was referencing?
The Silicon Valley person.
He worked for an incubator. It's called Plug and Play. And it's actually where that was Google first offices were in Plug and Play.
Thank you. And we have another question. Do you think that we need necessary years of experiences in a company before creating our a startup?
Not necessarily. It helps. It helps because you learn the processes, because you're more disciplined when you approach a startup, when you have that business knowledge. You're better at building spreadsheets and looking at data and putting out surveys. And you're also better at communicating your information to others, because the biggest part of a startup is how do you sell that idea to skepticals, right? If you're going to pitch a startup, so many other people are trying to get this person's money, this VC, this angel investor, this private equity group. So many other people are trying to convince them that this is the idea that you need to give money to. And so part of having that work experience helps you be more at ease in sharing that information, being able to communicate it, being able to anticipate some of the tough questions, but also it puts the investor at ease that you kind of know what you're doing, to a sense. 70% of decisions made to invest in the company are based on who the management team is. And the more experience you have in the industry, in the field that you're trying to launch a company in, the more the investors are comfortable with you.
Okay. And we have another question related to that. So you were juggling all of this. How could you share how you were able to manage and like your study habits and everything through all of this in college?
Yeah. Prioritizing and being okay not to have all A's. And I say that in the sense of, once I got to being a working professional, I realized that I can't be a perfectionist. I can't spend all my time and all my energy on every single project. There are some projects that I am going to do, a much better job than others. And there are projects that I'm barely going to get through the deadline. And I think I did develop that habit because of all the things that I was doing. Sometimes I was okay with a B, and sometimes I was even okay with a C, if I thought that, this other alternative was better for me. So if I thought that spending more time doing research in the intelligence unit was more important for me to study for that one thing, I did it. I didn't let myself flunk, and I kept up good grades so I can get into graduate school. But I did make some compromises.
Thank you.
Was there another question, or?
I think that covered all of them so far.
All right, so this one is on branding, and it's really this. LinkedIn, you may have heard this, but it's a big place for you to connect with other people. Don't treat it like Facebook, don't treat it like Instagram, don't treat it like Twitter. This is not where you air your grievances. This is not where you share your political views, or anything like that. It's literally a professional resume where you can showcase your professional work, and based on that professional work, connect with other people that can expand your network and use it for that purpose and that purpose only. So be professional on it, connect with other people, send a note. How do you know this person, and why are you connecting with them? Do you have something mutual? Are they alumni of UIS? Have you studied in the same program? And so why are you connecting with this person? So drop them a note before you connect with them. Have a professional picture. Don't put a picture on LinkedIn with your cat or your dog, or out hiking. Again, it's not Instagram, not Facebook, not TikTok, none of that. Professional headshot. When employers are searching, this is what they're looking for, right? They're looking for a professional person to connect with, and also use it as a tool to learn new things. There's so many classes and certifications that they have now that if you have skills in certain areas, you can take a quick LinkedIn quiz and you can get certified for these things. And so those badges kind of increase your score on LinkedIn and increase your visibility to other people. Resume, always have one. Always have one that's updated, whether you're going to use it or not. A rule of thumb is if you're actively looking for jobs, have one that's constantly being updated. If you're not actively looking for a job, you have a job, maybe update your resume once a year, put it on your calendar, make sure that you have your new projects on there, have your, if you have new job titles and so on, keep your resume brushed up and updated, and have a generic cover letter. If you were to pursue something, you're trying to tell this other person in this other company that you bring certain value that they will miss out if they don't hire you, that you bring certain passion, that you're not just there for a transactional relationship with them, and you're going to be invested. So maybe, and the reason I say generic one, because it helps you practice your talking points. Why are you going to do the things that you're going to do? Why am I going to hire you and not someone else? Because a degree is not enough, and basic things on a resume is not enough, because most people will meet those minimum requirements. So what is going to set you apart? And then if you ever get an interview because of your resume, follow up, not just by an email. It will really, really, really set you apart if you send a handwritten thank you note to the person that interviewed you. You can get just a blank thank you note for like $50. You can get a packet with, for $10, have one, keep one with you. Anytime you get interviewed, send a handwritten thank you note. They will really remember you because of it. And then social media, what you post on it is important. Your employers will look you up. And so what do you want them to see when they look you up? What kind of character, what kind of person do you want them to see? So be careful what you post, but also be careful what others tag you in. If your friends are tagging you in compromising posts, untag yourself and maybe ask them not to do that. It is important. Employers do care about that. If you're an employer, you don't want a PR nightmare. And so you're very diligent when you look at these things. And then your reputation. When people think about you, what should they think? What words should come to their mind? How should they feel when they think about you? So think of what you want your reputation to be. I did this exercise in college in the writing class. It was an English seminar, and the teacher asked us to write our own obituary. And I thought it was an interesting exercise. It forced us to think of the things of, how do we want to be remembered? What's the legacy that we want to leave behind? And so if you keep that in the forefront of your mind, what kind of human you want to be? What kind of person are you? And so keep that in mind in everything you engage in. How do you build that reputation? A thing that I do with my students and with entrepreneurs who I advise some entrepreneurs on their startups. I always say, when there's a press release, how do you want them to talk about your product? So try to imagine what that press release is. What does it say? And then see if you can pursue those things that are in the press release, whether it's an outstanding feature, or an incredible service, or a mediocre product, whatever it is. What do you want that press release to be? Do we have a question, Angie?
No, we just wanted to promote that you had talked about LinkedIn, and we are doing free professional portraits throughout the month of November that the students can just contact our office at 217-206-6508 or email us at careerservices@uis.edu to schedule their photo shoot.
Wonderful. All right. And then develop your skills. There's three things that I notice are growing in not just in higher education, but in industry. Everyone that we connect with, they look for these three traits or three skills in people that they want to hire. They want them to be human literate, which means you can talk to people, you can work with others, you can build network. If you get a job with any company, your job is to try to build a team around you that can help you promote your ideas, promote your projects, and hopefully be successful. So they want to know that you're someone who can do this. The second thing they want to know is that you have some kind of data literacy. We're not asking, we're not looking everyone to be a data scientist, but you have some basic understanding on how to process information, how to communicate it, and how to use it. Any industry you're going to be in today has some kind of data work, whether you're in healthcare, whether you're in tech, you're in retail, any industry you're going to be in today has data work. And so most companies want to know that you at least have the basics. You know how to do those things. And then some tech literacy. It used to be, 15, 20 years ago, you would put Microsoft Word as your the software that you know how, and how many words a minute you can type. It's different now. It'd be impressive if you can do things in Adobe, like Photoshop or InDesign or things like this, even if you're not going to be a graphic designer. But it shows them that you have abilities, that you have skills that you can grow, and that you can use. You're more nimble. You can work in multiple different places. Maybe spreadsheets if you're going to be in data, maybe get some basic knowledge on how to use Excel or how to use Google spreadsheets. If you're in graduate school, you're probably in your analytics class, you might do SPSS, or you might use R. Some things like this, just to show that you have some tech literacy, because it's really important. And then this is my last slide. Apply. If you don't do anything with your skills and your knowledge, and your brand and yourself and your person, if you don't do anything with it, nothing is going to happen. So you just have to apply all these things. You have to apply your skills. You have to apply to opportunities. And so internships, get internships. They're really important. Don't wait till the last semester of your career to create an internship. Internships do count towards your work experience. So if you start doing internships of your first semester in your junior year, by the time you're done, you have about 2 years of professional work experience in whatever industry you're in. And then do your homework. And I don't mean just, go home and do the homework that the teacher gives you, but do your homework, research your industry. What's next? And then research, the company. And I'll talk about that more when I get to research. And then shine. Don't just go and hide. Let people know who you are. Let them remember you. Let them see you, be seen. Those are the most successful interns that I've seen working in different companies. And me myself being an intern, is the more you're seen, the more you're engaged, the more you're delivering, the more they're going to remember you, and the more they'll be your heroes. They'll be your champions, and wanting to bring you on board. So be seen, shine. And then research. Again, researching your industry doesn't just mean what's happening today, but what's the next big thing? What's going to happen in the future? Being knowledgeable and being able to be fluent in that industry really impresses employers. So if you're going to be in insurance and you go and you talk about insurtech, or you talk about automation, auto insurance, and what happens when with automation, or you talk about smart city, it really impresses people when they hear you talk about the next big thing in their industry, because that's usually what they're most focused on, is how do we evolve our company to be there so we don't drown when the next big thing show up. Research your companies. What are they up to? What are they doing? If you're going to an internship, if you're applying to a company, they're always going to say, why'd you choose us? And you can't just say, because I need a job. Even if that's true, you can't say it. Like, why'd you choose us? You have to find some things that, make that question seem easy to answer. Why'd you choose us? Well, you're leading in this particular research, or you have these particular products that I'm an avid user of you have these services, or I'm a client of yours and I love the things that you've done to me here, or I've had this experience with your product or service. Why do you choose us? Research your company. And then join research opportunities if you can. I did research with, if any of you is in the business school or in the MIS department, I did research with Dr. Atul Agarwal and on lean manufacturing, and we got it published in the International Decision Science Institute. And he got to travel to Bali to share the research at a conference. And it was a great opportunity for me. I got to connect with faculty. I got to learn how they collect data. I got to know how to crunch data in that sense. So if there are research opportunities in your departments, join them. And they're not usually posted, around. Just knock on doors. If you appreciate a teacher and you think, this professor is wonderful, does a great job, and I'm interested in their topic, knock on their door. Ask them, what research are you working on? And what can I do for it, right? So always, part of networking too. Ask, engage with people. And then volunteer. If you have time, build your community. You're part of this community. You live on campus, but you're part of the community around you. The better the community is doing, the better you are, your circumstance. And it helps you connect. It helps you network, and it helps you do something good, feel good. So I said a lot, but that's the end of my slide.
So we actually have a question. What are some of the top memorable tips your advisor gave to you that you think would be of aid to future students?
Uh, you know, in general, there's some of the things that I've mentioned here. Um, you're not a bystander. You're not a bystander in this life, right? You're a student, but you're not a bystander. You're actively engaged in all the things that are happening around you, whether you like it or not. It's something, in business, it's like, culture happens in a company, and we talk about business cultures. Whether you want it or not, those things are going to happen. So you can't just watch things happen to you or in front of you. You have to actively shape what those things are going to be. I thought that was a very valuable lesson to me because it changed the way I thought of things. Um, I was no longer waiting for someone to do something for me. That's when I started knocking on doors and saying, do you have research I can engage in? Do you have research I can do? That's when I started saying, I've never been in that court. I've never been in the courthouse. I'd like to go in and work there. Are there internship opportunities? Things like this. So be actively engaged. The last thing, and I always repeat this. I repeat this to my students, and I'll say it here. One thing that he said to me many years ago, and I remember that I was in his office and I was complaining that things are difficult, and I don't know if I like any of this stuff, and it's hard. Uh, and he said that if it was a quote, and I'm rephrasing here, that if we don't reach for what's beyond our grasp, and what are heavens for? And in a sense, he was saying, well, of course it's difficult, because you have to reach out to grab those things, and it's going to be hard. But if it wasn't like that, then what does anything mean? Like, what is anything if we don't reach out for the things that are beyond our reach? And again, that helped me, that shaped my thinking. So as students, um, you're important, you're empowered, you have all the power to do a lot of things, and it's how you exercise that power. How often do you reach out? How do you engage in what you expect of yourself and what you show others, is very important.
So since we're wrapping up time, I just want to throw in one final question. So pivot is a popular word right now because of all the unexpected changes 2020 has brought to many people. What would you say has been your biggest pivot so far in your career, and
Yeah,
how you might say to deal with that from a student as well as professional perspective?
yeah. When I think of the word pivot, the first thing that comes to mind is Ross and Chandler and Rachel carrying a couch in Friends, if anyone has seen that episode. And then Ross starts screaming pivot. and I know if you're a Friends fan, this is hilarious. It was hilarious to me because I hear every time an entrepreneur says pivot, I just hear Ross screaming in my ear. Um, the idea of pivoting is that a business gets to a point where there's this unexpected, sudden conflict that the business cannot overcome with the current trajectory of it. An example is if your company was selling ATM paper, and people stopped using ATMs, you have reached a point where your company cannot survive in its current form, and so then you have to pivot into something else. For us, it was the pandemic. Entrepreneurship, it's all hands on. It's networking, it's shaking hands, it's mingling with people, it's going to events. So we're very active. And then came the pandemic and said, you can't do any of these things. And that created an incredibly difficult position for us. How do you engage a group of 17, 18-year-old students who are highly energetic and highly active, who signed up for this program because they wanted to go around and meet people, and now you're asking them to just be on Zoom? And so that was a challenge for us. So happened in March. We went to class on Friday, we went on the weekend, and then March 11th. So we couldn't come back, or it was sometime in March. No, we didn't come back. So we just left for a weekend and never came back to class. So it was rough, but we learned a lot from those months, from March until May, until the students have graduated. the attention span, how to use, how to make better use of breakout rooms, how to create activities that are more engaging, and then how to facilitate speakers. We used to host speakers, and speakers would come in and do their talk for about 30 minutes, and then we had questions, and we learned how not to do that, how it's more of a conversation now when we go on Zoom. This semester, or this year, we did something different. We're doing a hybrid program where we have small groups of students who can be on campus, and then the other group is online, and then we rotate them. And so then everyone gets the on-campus experience and everyone gets the online experience. We're still using, how to break out rooms in a very efficient way. We have a lot of case studies. We have a lot of just teamwork and engagement, and so on. And then that kind of helped us do better for the students, where we don't just kill them on Zoom for 7 hours a day.
I just want to say thank you so much, Nabih, for sharing your inspirational background and your purpose and journey with us. And would you mind sharing contact information if students would like to follow up with additional information?
Absolutely. I just put in my email. It's nelha2@uis.edu. Feel free to email me if you have any questions. If you're looking for any opportunities, if I can connect you, I'd be happy to. If you have resumes that you'd like to share with me, I can share them around in the community, and hopefully we can connect you. But thank you so much for hosting me. I hope you found value in what I shared. And again, if you need anything, please reach out.
I appreciate it so much. Thank you from the perspective of a student, as well as from professional staff and all of us here at the Career Development Center. Have a wonderful day, and thank you to all the participants.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, Nabih.
Bye.